Hey guys, so today I'm here to share with you the top 14 books of 2014 in my opinion. These are just the books that I read throughout the year of 2014. It does not mean that these books were released in 2014. I had a pretty good reading year. I read a lot of amazing books, so it was kind of hard to narrow it down to 14, but I did, and so now I'm going to share them with you. These books are in the order of how I read them throughout the year. I only have a few of the books that are physically here to show you because I read a lot of library books or they were on my Kindle or I borrowed them from a friend. Now that all that is out of the way, let's get into it. So my first favorite of 2014 was The Host by Stephenie Meyer. I loved this book way more than I thought I would. It's super long and big books usually intimidate me, but once I got going in this one, I couldn't put it down. This is about a girl who lives in this world where aliens come in and they basically use the human bodies as hosts, hence the name. And so this story is about one specific host and one specific alien thing, and it's their story. They're in one body together, and usually when an alien kind of hooks on to a human host, the human part kind of fades away. But in this story, the human part is still in there and fighting the alien for her body. So yeah, it's pretty awesome. I really liked it. This next one I read on my Kindle, and it is These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner. This book totally blew my mind when I read it. It had me so emotionally invested in this story and in the characters, and like my feelings were just a roller coaster throughout this book because there's so much that happens. It is definitely an intense read. This one is about this very wealthy girl and this guy who is someone important in the army. I'm really butchering the synopsis. They are on a spaceship together traveling, but there is an accident. Basically, this guy and this girl end up landing on this new planet that no one has ever heard of alone, and they have to try to survive. I can't wait to read the sequel. My next favorite is The Royal Treatment, which is by Lindsay Leavitt, and this is actually a second book in a series. The series is called A Princess for Hire, and this has become one of my favorite series of all time. So that I won't spoil anything, I'll just tell you the synopsis of the first book. It is about a girl named Desi who finds out that she has magical powers. She sees this magic ad in the paper, which ends up being a job where you substitute for princesses. So you stand in for them, you put on this magic rouge or blush, and it makes you look exactly like them. And so these princesses will go off on vacation or do whatever they have to do while this person stands in for them and pretends to be them. It's so adorable, and I can't even express how much I love it. It is aimed for like middle school age, but I don't even care. I'm 21 years old and I am in love with this series. Next we have One Tiny Lie, which is by K.A. Tucker, and it was hard for me to pick a book from this series because I loved every single book. There's 4 books in the series, and I read them all last year back to back because I loved them so much. But this is probably my favorite from the whole series, and I didn't want to include all 4 books because that would take up too much space. So I chose this one. This is the second book in the series, and these are companion novels, so you don't have to read them in order. This one is about the sister of the main character in the first book, which is 10 Tiny Breaths. And it's fantastic. It's about her going off to college and her experience. And the love story in this book is just incredible and so well done. And I love it with all of my heart, so I had to put it in this video. Next, we have Boundless by Cynthia Hand. This is the third and final book in the Unearthly trilogy, which Unearthly was one of the books that really got me into reading a few years ago. And so the series has had a special place in my heart because of that. But this was an amazing end to the series. It was so great. Even though I wasn't really happy with the love interest that she chose, it was still such an amazing book. This next one I read on my Kindle, and it is Love Letters to the Dead by Ava Deliria. I don't know how to say her last name, I'm so sorry. This one definitely has the vibe of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Of course, there are definitely differences, but in the way that it's similar, it's a coming of age story. And especially because this book is also told in letters, just like The Perks of Being a Wallflower. This is a book about a girl who her sister commits suicide, and so she's trying to get her life back together, and she's starting high school. She ends up having this English project where she has to write a letter to a famous dead person, and so after she does that assignment, she decides to write more letters to famous dead people. And so this whole book is composed of these letters that she has written to these different celebrities, and It's amazing. Like, I loved everything about it. It was very emotional. It's one that I definitely recommend. Next, we have We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. This one is just so good because of the mystery factor, and I don't really want to tell you a whole lot about it because it's a good one to go into kind of blind. But what I will tell you is it is about this family who go to this island every summer, and some crazy things happen while they're on the island, and it's just totally worth a read. Next, we have Winger by Andrew Smith, which just thinking about this book breaks my heart because it is very emotional. And the main thing I loved about this book was the characters. It's a very character-driven story, and they feel like real people to me. This one is about this boy who attends a boarding school, and he's a lot younger than the kids in his grade because he's very smart, and so he kind of advanced to a higher grade. It's a coming-of-age story as well, which I guess you can tell I like that kind of thing, and it's one that I recommend to everyone. It's very, very good, and I think it deserves so much praise. I feel like people don't talk about it enough. I don't know if they just don't know about it or haven't heard of it, but I'm telling you, please read it. It is a fantastic book. Next, I have Love and Other Foreign Words by Erin McCahan. I just related to the main character in so many ways. I mean, she's a lot smarter than I am, but other personality traits I just really connected with, and I just connected with this story as a whole, and I fell in love with it. It's about this girl who feels like everybody talks in certain languages in their everyday life. She believes that love is a language and friendship is a language, and she feels like she's fluent in all these different languages except for love. She's trying to figure out what love is and if she's ever going to find it. It's great. That's all I can say. It's just great. Then I have Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. This book wrecked me emotionally. Like, it is insane, but completely unforgettable and so complex, and just one that there was no way I couldn't include it in my favorites because it's one of the books from the whole year that sticks out in my mind. Like, I will always remember that I read this in 2014. If you don't know what this one is about, it's about a girl who goes missing and everyone is blaming her husband for it, and you have no idea what's happening. Like, you don't know where she is, nothing. And so you're trying to figure it out through this whole book. It's a psychological thriller, so it's like pretty crazy. But I adored it, very much so. I can't wait to read more by Gillian Flynn. Next is Landline by Rainbow Rowell, who I have mentioned multiple times in my videos that she is my favorite author. It's about this girl who is having some trouble with her marriage, and her husband goes away for the holidays to go see his family, and she stays home. She ends up trying to call her husband on this old landline phone that she finds, and it ends up being like this magic phone because it calls him, I think, like 15 years in the past. And that sounds kind of crazy, but it was so good and so well done, just like all of Rainbow's books are. The characters were just amazing. I wanted to be friends with all of them. Georgie McCool is awesome. She's the main character. Rainbow just doesn't disappoint with anything that she writes. It was so good, and I highly recommend it. Next, I have Burying Water by K.A. Tucker, which I read on my Kindle. This is by the same author who wrote this series that I was raving about. And this is the first book in a new companion novel series that she's doing. It's new adult. It is about this girl. At the beginning of the book, she wakes up in this hospital and she has no idea where she is. She doesn't even know her own name. And she finds out that she was like beaten and left for dead, and she has no idea why. So she's trying to figure out who she is and who did this to her and why. And then the story is also told in another perspective of the love interest, and his story kind of starts where they meet and explains like what happened to her, and it's just an incredible book. I can't rave about it enough. I just love her new adult stories. Next, I have Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This was a fantastic read, a beautiful story. It's about this boy named Augie who has a facial disfigurement, and he's starting public school for the first time, going into middle school, and so it's another coming of age story that is just done so well, and you get multiple perspectives, not just Augie's, but the people around him as well. You get to read from their perspectives. It's one of those that I think everyone needs to read. It's an important piece of literature. Obviously I loved it or it wouldn't be in this video. And the last book that I have is Rapunzel's Revenge, which is by Shannon and Dean Hale, and it's also illustrated by Nathan Hale. This is a graphic novel and it is fantastic. I love it. It takes your typical Rapunzel story and definitely puts some twists on it. There's also other fairy tale characters in this story, and it's one of my favorite graphic novels of all time, so definitely pick it up. So that is it for my top 14 of 2014. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and please let me know what books you loved this year because I am always looking for more recommendations. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye. Police and the fireman, I'm too hot. And illustrated by Nathan bleh, by Erin oh shoot, what's her name? And she stays where they is that who attends this. This is a girl about this is a girl. There's four. Next is one that I read on my Kindle, and these broken stars. Okay, I can't reach.